Hey, hey, you. Oh, the other genius scrolling TikTok in the chair next to you. Yes, you. Tell me something. You want to 3D print with resin, don't you?
I mean, yeah, sure I do. I mean, I would love high quality prints, no layer lines, good details, but I don't know, I just don't really have the room and I also don't have the cash. And I don't know, I don't want to deal with the fumes and having to buy the vat and the curing chamber. It's just a lot.
Yeah. It's too expensive. It's too hard. My wallet is crying. Cry me a river. But what if I told you you can get professional 3D resin results without buying a 3D resin printer?
Well, I'd say you're lying because you definitely need the printer, you definitely need the vat, and you definitely need the curing chamber. So, where's this going, genius?
Oh, you need a machine. Oh, you need the fan. Zip it. Because you're about to get schooled. So put your wallet away, grab a notebook, because starting right now, I'm showing you the ultimate resin hack to print without a resin printer. Folks, welcome back to G Studios. Yes, you heard that right. In today's video, I am going to show you how to get those nice, smooth, resin-like 3D prints from a resin 3D printer without buying one or needing the vat, the curing chamber, etc. We're not doing any of that today. And this is huge because this is something that I've more recently been doing with my finer detail projects and my miniatures. So that way I can, of course, optimize not only the quality and the look, but save money and, to not, of course, have to dive into resin 3D printing with the zero room that I have left in my office. Now, you may be wondering, of course, how are we going to achieve this? Well, you clicked on the video, so I'm going to tell you. One of my favorite tricks that I have been using for quite some time now, of course, is to utilize photopolymer resin and basically combine it with talcum powder. Now, the talcum powder basically makes the photopolymer resin a little bit more of a goopy-like substance and allows us to go ahead and fill in the layer lines a little bit thicker than the viscosity of the regular photopolymer resin would. Now, this does a multitude of things. One, the photopolymer resin will go ahead and create a hardened surface over top. It will also help to strengthen the bond, especially if you have multiple pieces that you're connecting. And it will, of course, allow you to get a smoother, cleaner finish. So that way, if you're just wanting that look for whatever reason, because maybe you need it for paint, or you just want to go ahead and make sure that the print itself is smooth, or you're worried about finer details, that's the way to go. But what if you have a print that you are worried about obviously sanding too much to lose those finer details, and you don't want to miss out on them, but you do want to get rid of those horrible layer lines? Well, there's two things that you need to do. The first actually lies in the Bambu Studio. So a lot of what we're going to be doing before we even touch the equipment that we're going to be using is, of course, to go ahead and tweak the settings for the 3D printer. So that way the print is optimized and it prints out phenomenally with minimal layer lines and, of course, with high quality. So that way we just obviously have to save a bunch of steps thereafter, and we don't have to worry about sanding a ton or taking away any fine details that we want to leave on this print. Now, in Bambu Studio, these are the settings that we are going to go ahead and adjust to get the best quality prints. The layer height should be adjusted to 0.08 millimeters, the 0.1 millimeter for a balance of speed detail, or 0.05 millimeters to 0.06 millimeters for maximum detail. Now, the Bambu Lab actually won't go with a 4mm nozzle any lower than the 0.08 millimeters. So that's basically like the cap there, but we can go ahead and swap out the nozzle to a 0.2mm nozzle, which Bambu Lab has on their website, and you can easily go ahead and switch out from the 0.4mm nozzle. And it is superior for extremely fine small details compared to the 0.4mm one. Another huge setting that we're going to go ahead and include is the Arachne wall generator. I'm going to say arcane, because that's what it looks like. And the first time I saw this, I thought it said. So we're going to go ahead and enable the arcane wall generator for better handling with the thin features. It's also going to go ahead and lay down basically like a border around where you need to go ahead and print. So that way it keeps it in place and it minimizes the risk, of course, of the nozzle or anything else adjusting or moving the actual build itself from the spot where it's printing. Now, the speed is another big thing that you need to drastically reduce. The outer wall speed needs to be anywhere between 30 to 50 millimeters per second to minimize the vibrations, of course, and improve the surface finish. The first layer speed, if we want to take it a step further, should be lowered to 25 to 30 millimeters per second to ensure that that perfect initial adhesion is met. And if you really want to optimize everything, you could perform a flow rate calibration to ensure that everything is going to be consistent and smooth with the extrusion. Now, that's where at least I stop when I print something that I want for finer details, especially if I'm not using the 0.2mm nozzle. But if you wanted to get a little bit more advanced, you could go ahead and in the slicer, set the fine layers to 0.05 to 0.08 millimeters, only where needed. The slopes and the complex details are really where that's going to come into play. And then for the thicker layers, 0.16 to 0.2 millimeters on flat vertical surfaces to save some time, because with you obviously decreasing the speed and adding in, of course, the smaller layer height, it is going to take longer to print out anything as if you were to just go ahead and throw it into the program Bambu Studio and hit print. Now, after everything prints and you have the finished product and the fruits of your labor, after painstakingly, of course, tweaking settings and making sure that everything is perfect, you will have your fine detail and worthy print. And we are going to go ahead and, of course, if it's in multiple pieces, glue it together, make sure that all the seam lines are set and flush with each other. And then we're going to take the photopolymer resin, just the photopolymer resin, not with talcum powder, and we're going to put a coating over top of the entire thing. Now, this is where, of course, the 3D resin printing elements come into play. But this is basically going to, of course, cover the entire thing. It's going to create that coating. It is going to fill in layer lines, and it is going to start to make that very smooth finish. Now, the photopolymer resin is thin. It's not, of course, going to be anything thick, so you're not really going to fill in all of the layer lines, but you're going to fill in a majority of them, to the point where if you've tweaked the settings and they're already thin and you have a good quality printer, then there really shouldn't even be that many layer lines, that are clearly visible. Once you go ahead and, of course, put on the first coat of resin, you need to cure it. So I do it in batches. I'll go ahead and I will lay on a little patch of the photopolymer resin. I'll take my black light and I will cure it, and then I will keep working in patches all the way until the entire thing is coated. One thing to know with this, of course, you're still working with resin fumes, even though it's not a resin 3D printer. So make sure you wear a respirator. Nobody needs any issues with their lungs who watches this channel. I know I surely don't. So every time I work with resin, I am wearing a appropriate filtering respirator. Okay, now you've cured the resin. Everything's good, everything's cured, but it's still a little tacky in some areas. resin is kind of tricky sometimes. You don't always get the cure that you want in certain areas, and especially with us doing patches, some areas cure either differently than others. So in order to go ahead and clean that off and kind of have it enter its final form to where it's not tacky and you can actually work with it, you're going to use isopropyl alcohol to go ahead and clean the entire thing. So we've already established the resin, then we did the curing, now we have the vat, which means that we have effectively taken those 3 very costly components out of the equation, and we have wrapped it into a single bottle of photopolymer resin, a bottle of isopropyl alcohol, and the blacklight flashlight. This is something where, you can kind of like go as much or as little as you want, but I normally basically try to soak the entire thing in there because of course I just want to make sure that all of the resin is fully off, because the next step is going to be sanding, and I want to make sure that everything is nice, clean, and good to go before we head into that, because if you start sanding on top of uncured resin, it's going to leave clumpy, ugly sandpaper, and nobody wants that. Okay, so you've cleaned off and cleared off all of the uncured resin. You've swiped it, whapped it, flicked it, done everything you needed to do for it with the isopropyl alcohol. Now it's nice and clean. You let it dry. I normally go ahead and I will do a final cure, just like the normal process is with resin 3D printers, where you go ahead and you print it, you put it in the alcohol vat, it takes care of everything, and then you cure it. I will go ahead and I will take the black light and I will run it over. Of course, again, you don't need that long. It's like maybe like, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds you really need in order to flash the light on there to cure it. So it's fairly quick. It's not time consuming. And it just makes sure that, of course, any extra bits that the isopropyl alcohol may not have washed off gets cured. So that way, that's it. We're done. We don't have to worry about wiping it off or curing it anymore. Depending on the level of detail, you could, of course, go ahead and put a second coat of resin on there. I would say with larger prints and props, maybe that's probably a good idea to not only, of course, make a more smooth surface, but also to fill in more layer lines. If, your paint, if you're maybe looking for a high gloss paint or a high chrome paint, warrants it. But for all intents and purposes, and for most of the time, if you're working with a miniature or a smaller object that needs higher details to be shown, one layer of the resin is going to do just fine. Now, I did mention sanding. Now, don't get scared. Please don't get scared. We're not pulling out the mouse sander. We're not pulling out, anything under 220 grits. Yes, you heard that right. 220 grits is actually where we're starting. We are not going to be spending a lot of time sanding because we want to keep those finer details. But the reason why we do need to sand at all is because whatever paint that we're putting on there needs to adhere to something, and it can't just, of course, have a smooth surface. It could, but paint and spray paint, acrylic paint, whatever kind of paint that you're using will always stick better to a surface that is sanded. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit the entire surface or whatever you're working with 220 grit sandpaper, and then we will hit it with 400 grit sandpaper, and that is it. If you want something smoother, sure, go for it, but I really wouldn't suggest going any higher because depending on what you printed and how you want the details to show up, you could start to break down those details and lose the entire plot of this episode. So after you have sanded for maybe all of about 5 minutes and done 220 and 400, that's it. You're done. You can go ahead and, of course, wipe it down with water or whatever you need to in order to get all the dust off. You can use a airbrush or whatever, and then you can go ahead and put whatever paint that you need on it. The wand that I tested this on and actually built this on was for the Dungeons and Dragons campaign that I'm in, and I was under a significant time crunch. I want to say I maybe had like 2 hours to go ahead and finish this before I needed to head over to my buddy's place for the campaign. And I did it. I actually did it in like an hour and a half, which I was shocked at. So I put on the resin, I cured it. I made sure everything was cleaned and good. I sanded for all of about 5 minutes, and then I knew that I wasn't going to spray paint it and that I was just going to throw on some acrylic paint. So I threw on some acrylic paint, and that was it. I sealed it with Mod Podge Glossy, and it looks fantastic. I couldn't be happier with it, and I couldn't believe that it took me so little time just to make something that looks so detailed. And I'm obviously astounded that you can't see any layer lines. I know the paint attributes to that a little bit, but you also can't see any of the seam lines as to where I glued the pieces together. This was actually printed in like 5 or 6 different pieces. So the fact that one coat of resin and a little bit of tweaking on your Bambu Studio or whatever slicer that you use can warrant this, hey, my work here is done. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions, leave them down below, or you can hit me up on any one of my social medias and I will yap your ear off and answer any questions that you might have. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you have to do to boost the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.